So yes, welcome back to another review video. I know I'm doing a lot of these, right? This whole week I've just done a lot of them, haven't I? Well, I still got about 4 more to go after this one. So just hold tight, and I hope you have enjoyed them. Before I get into this movie of The Force Awakens, I wanted to just do one last recap of the entire original trilogy and why it shouldn't be worshipped as much as it is. This is going to come off as divisive, and I understand it. Like I always say, I love all of Star Wars, but you can criticize something that you do love, and then that shows your true understanding of that art form, as if you understand why you dislike it and why you love it at the same time. In my eyes, again, my opinion. This is all this is my opinions. So, this trilogy was just thrown together. The visuals were spectacular. The movie to movie to movie was all structured as far as the hero's journey correctly. But the story was being told was just thrown together, just like, oh, these two characters really like each other. Instead of actually giving them a relationship because there's another character involved, let's make them brother and sister. Why? I enjoy it, and now that I know that they're brother and sister, it's understandable now and stuff like that about where the story has gone. It's just, wow. They kissed in episode 5, and yet you want us to forget it? Really? Cool. But I do enjoy this trilogy. It's not a terrible trilogy. It's not a terrible trilogy as a whole, and movie to movie to movie. They're not terrible movies. But the story, the substance of what is being told and being consumed, could have just been so much better if they just sat down before it and wrote it out. A lot of people are bashing the sequel trilogy for this very reason, that there wasn't a total plan in place for those movies. But yet we see it here, and it's acceptable. It's not. To me, it just doesn't make sense to have it be that way. Like, as far as the bashing is concerned, if you don't like the movies, that's all on you. But don't use something that is justified in one trilogy to bash another. Like in the fourth, A New Hope, Luke was just a loner. He was a nobody. He was just a Skywalker, like somebody in the sequel trilogy. And then throughout the story, he learns to get better and be able to become a more heroic type of character. Then you get to episode 5, and then a surprise, midway through filming, they're like, hey, this is what we're going with in this scene, so make sure you give that actor a performance. He's going to become your father, and you're going to be a somebody. And then in episode 6, you just get them going back and forth as far as, should he go dark, should he go light, should he be dark, should he be light? And you never get the sense that he's going to be dark, but the temptation was there, and it was shown, and I applaud Mark Hamill for that performance. He nailed that performance as far as he has the potential to be dark, but he's not dark. He's not going to be dark. So I liked that. I liked episode 5 more than episode 4 due to the way they handled Vader. In episode 4, he was just kind of like this kind of executioner style character, and for Moff Tarkin, so it was like Moff Tarkin was his superior in a way. Even though he had this ancient religion where he could just choke somebody and they'd be dead, or use his laser sword and just chop somebody in half. So it's like, how is this dude superior to this dude? But that's the military hierarchy they went for. And in episode 5, after Tarkin got killed in episode 4, Vader take full command of everything, and that is when he started to shine and become more established and more menacing and more developed as a character. And then you get to episode 4, and they kind of do it the same thing that they did in episode 4 and episode 6 with Vader, as far as making him subservient to someone else. And I would have liked it personally as him being the forefront, but again, can't change it. It's what we have, and that's just my opinion. But speaking of Palpatine, going from the way I've gone through it, from watching the prequels to watching now the originals, you can see him as a character evolving and his plan taking shape in every movie. You see it in episode 1 where he's manipulating Padme, episode 2 where he's mentoring Anakin, episode 3 where he manipulates Anakin to the dark side, episode 4 he's not really there. He's more of a passing by mention as someone that is higher and somebody that is a great type of character. Then you get him in episode 5 a little bit more as controlling. And in episode 6 you see the full plan of he doesn't necessarily want to die, but he wants to live forever, which is a very dark side thing to do, which is why in none of these movies anybody has Force healed like you see with Baby Yoda and The Mandalorian and in episode 7. And, not episode 7, episode 9, sorry my numbers are all off, with Rey and Baby Yoda being able to Force heal. Jedi, to me, that's more of, they want people to be able to live their life and be able to, whenever it's their time, if they're dying, then they're gonna die. They're not gonna stop it. They're of the living Force, and every living thing dies. But the Sith are, I want to live forever. This is all we got, so this is where we're at. And that's why you don't see the Force healing. And plus, I do think that that's a Sith side, or a more developed type of thing. You hear in episode 6, actually, Yoda does say, I am strong in the Force, or something of this nature. But it's like, I'm strong in the Force, but not that strong. So that I believe at that point, even though there was no no forward thought or no thought process on this about Force healing at this point in time, I do believe that they're going for that. And then also in episode 5, whenever Luke was taking off to Bespin, you hear Yoda talking with old Ben and Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he was saying, no, there is another. Everybody assumed that it was Leia. Why can't it be Rey? And that is what I'm going to try to be discussing in my next few videos of the sequel trilogy, to try to elicit that type of thought process from you guys on maybe Yoda was talking about Rey. Again, this was back in the 70s where they didn't think that this was going to take off as it did, but it did. So now we got to look at all 11 movies together, and that is what I'm going to do. That is what I've been doing. So whenever I finish the sequel trilogy and do the review of that, I will hit another one of the entire Star Wars series. Be on the lookout for that. See you tomorrow.